I kind of want to just like make some music and like peace out. Like I was imagining this being my last album for sure.
Hello, beautiful human. I am Zach. That is Dan, and we welcome back to the studio. I think for a third time, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Our friend forever.
Second time in the studio. Because we did a Zoom one.
That's right.
That's wow.
Yeah.
I forgot about the Zoom one. I thought both were in person, but I do also remember we have like there's a music box.
Dude, the music box.
We share something. It's a
We
very
do.
I'm so happy to have you here, Porter Robinson. Everybody.
Yes. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're the best.
The music box is a pain point for me. I was like rummaging through my backpack this morning. I was like, I have to find the music box. I want to like show up. I'm thinking Zach might not still have his. Like I can show off my music box. It's in my closet. It's sitting like next to my backup passport in my closet. I didn't bring it here today, but
First of all, you have a backup passport?
I do. I have 2 passports. Yeah.
That's really genius.
Yeah. It's what you have to do sometimes is like you'll need one passport to be sent to like the embassy to get your like Japanese passport or to get your Japanese work visa or whatever. And then meanwhile, I'm like touring in Latin America or something. So there are times where touring artists will need a couple passports. Yeah.
That is wild.
It's kind of crazy you're allowed to do it too, you know? Like it seems like you should only be allowed to have one passport. Yeah.
But you have 2.
I got 2.
We have a lot to discuss because I do think that the Porter Robinson that sits here today is the same Porter as before, but definitely a little different, no?
Well, I have makeup on right now.
And your outfit is incredible. You look great.
Thank you. Yeah, I was telling you right before we started rolling that I put this outfit on yesterday because we were doing another promotional thing, but I was like, I did feel handsome. I put it on, I looked in the mirror, and I did. It was a scarce moment where I was like, wait, I look cute. I'm saving this for Zach Sang because I wanted to wear it today. Yeah. You ever save an outfit?
Yes. 100%.
Yeah.
You want to save it for that special moment.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for
This is the place for it.
Thank you.
No, thanks for having me. Thank you for having me.
You said something, rare moment that you thought you were cute. Is that true?
Well, dude, the thing that got clipped most last time, I think, was where I said, like, I felt like I didn't know what I looked like. Like, I remember that was, y'all posted that on TikTok. It was like, Porter Robinson says he has no idea what he looks like. And, yeah, like on this record, that's a huge theme. It's like how you perceive yourself and like trying to look good and yeah, trying to be loved and stuff like that. All that comes up.
There's a lot of honesty and a lot of. I learn a lot about you, dude.
What do you feel like you learned?
If I was to summarize, and I want to go more in depth, I found out that you're a beautiful soul, incredibly gifted individual that battles a lot of stuff and struggles to find one's lane, I think, in both life and career, which is something that myself and tens of millions of other people can feel understood by.
Yeah. It's, I have kind of 2 things to say about that. One of them is that the album I was setting out to make was I wanted to make this like bombastic, invulnerable, like unstoppable album. Like I wanted to make this album that was about like being and feeling invincible. And part of that was like picking up the guitar for the first time in my life. I'd never played guitar before this record, and I fell in love with it so much. And I had this vision in my head of making this album where I could just like embody this character that was like had so much confidence and was so unstoppable. And as soon as I picked up the guitar, the songs I was trying to write, stuff like Knock Yourself Out or Cheerleader, the bangers, like that was when I made it first. But then after a while, I started telling the truth more with the lyrics. And I realized that I could have within the same song, I could showcase this real like bravado. And then later on in the same song, I could say something that's like so painful for me to admit that I like didn't even want to show like my wife the song. Like I would play it for her and I'd be like, this, like when the section comes up, like there's one where I talk about like getting my teeth done and like how I regret it, right? And how like I miss when I look back at photos of how like I looked before fixing my teeth, like my actual teeth that I was born with. I just feel like immense regret. But there's also lines in that song's like your girl was staring at my bag, wouldn't look good on her, so sad. Like just like everybody wants to identify my hat. Like it's just like stupid like brags about fashion. And then in the same song, I'm also just like, everyone's just trying to look good and try not to feel bad. And yeah, I don't know, just like that combo of things that made me feel unstoppable, and then stuff that's more truthful, that's like saying the things I don't want to say. There's so much of that on this album, like saying things that I absolutely didn't want to say, but my impulse in the studio would be, there's something in the back of my mind that keeps coming to mind as I'm working on this song, and I would normally I'd tell myself, you can't go there. Like, that's too X. It's too embarrassing. It's too cringe. It's too like self-congratulatory. And on this album, I tried to say yes every single time. Whatever I was trying to stop myself from saying would be the first thing I would say on the song.
What changes, though, in your life that allows you to, I mean, that takes confidence, but also like comfort with oneself and an understanding of oneself, no?
Yeah, I'm glad we have this pillow right now. This is a real source of, like, I feel like many tears have been shed on the Zach Sang show.
On that pillow.
On this pillow. It was a little bit of like kind of being unhappy with who I had become to some extent. Like I guess a lot of artists have this relationship with their fans where they sort of shave off their most imperfect parts and they try to show the most like correct version of themselves with all the like right opinions and like without making mistakes and being very guarded about what you say. And because you fear like retribution, you know, like everyone hates getting in trouble. I think me maybe more than anyone. I hate, like, dude, when I'm like in an Uber, one time I like closed the back of this Uber and I closed it a little too hard because I just misjudged the tension on it, and the dude yelled at me, and it was like 2 days. I'm such a baby about this. It was 2 days for me of being like replaying it in my head, being like moments of defensiveness, like I didn't even push it that hard, and then moments of being like, oh, I feel so bad, like this guy, like he probably worked so hard to get this car, like all those emotions I feel like are present here. But anyway, the point that I was making is that I came to really hate the like ultra refined version of myself that was like tried to be perfect and was like acting like I had all the answers. That's the other thing that annoys me a little bit too, looking back, is like the previous record was one that I wrote to help myself at my darkest points. And along with that came this desire to help other people, right? Like wanting to tell people what they need to hear. But the human being at the end of all that, me, was like, started to really feel like a caricature. And like there were so many moments where my audience would be mad about me. It'd be like little things or big things or whatever. And I was like, man, I think this has in large part to do with the fact that I've been trying to portray myself as like perfect. And when you fail to meet that expectation, there's like furor, you know? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's just like, I know I'm going on at length here, but like there's a real asymmetry, I think, in the relationship between artists and their fans, right? Because artists can show their vulnerable, it's a big part of artistry, is like showing things that you might only show a close friend. Or a loved one, you know, and you can show like, you can have inside jokes with your audience, but you can, yeah, I'm feeling myself stammering here because I'm like going someplace that's like, that I like hesitate to talk about. But in the spirit of, this album, let's go there. Like that asymmetry is, you can feel it so deeply in like when there's like a misunderstanding between an artist and the audience, right? Like the only way for the audience to be heard is to go like huge, is to like start burning shit down. Totally. You know what I mean? Because it's not a real relationship. It's not a real friendship. And so like, I just felt that like, in trying to stay out of trouble and trying to portray myself as really perfect, like it was like looking at videos of myself, whatever, it felt like looking in a funhouse mirror. Like I felt like I was seeing this exaggerated caricature of myself that like wasn't the reality. So the solution in my mind was like, fuck the reality. Like I'm gonna like have all this bravado. I'm gonna say things that I don't mean. And in the same time on this record, I ended up saying things that I did mean that I didn't want to say. So that's what a lot of this record is like. It's exaggerated versions of myself, parts that I don't even feel, and things that I do feel really strongly and was scared to say in the past.
What pushes you to be perfect? Is it success? Is it, I mean, what?
I mean,
society?
What pushes you to be perfect? Well, I will say this is kind of an unhelpful answer because it's not universal, but I do have obsessive compulsive disorder. Diagnosed really, really young with that. Like I mean, we might have talked about it a bit last time. So like I had all these like prayer rituals when I was a little kid. I was like checking the logs and stuff. Like really like super afraid of house fires and stuff like that. And here we go. Here comes that like vulnerability that makes people feel like they know me. But I suck at lying and I suck at not telling the truth. Yeah, that's part of it, I think. And I think the other part is just like, I think, don't you want to be like great, you know? Like, don't you want to like be good at something and be worthy of love and be attractive and to excel? Like, I think a lot of people have this in them. And I think that there's just this constant drive to be better. And then that combined with a fear of exclusion, like the fear of being cast out, you know what I mean? Like I think a lot of people have this feeling of like the fear of ostracization, like being ostracized. There's nothing worse than like not having a social group to come back to. And so I think that was for me the main one. Like the fear of shame kept me from, it made me bite my tongue a lot, you know? It made me not say what I was feeling or try to portray myself as perfect. And I should say, once again, that I don't have this figured out. And I'm probably not in a better place with this than before. But maybe I'm now capable of like having a little more fun on the record and saying things that I was scared to say.
Was a part of not being able to keep up a perfect act attached to the fear of it going away? Like, because you had built, and you mentioned this on the album, the idea of building something, everything you've ever wanted at a total nothing.
Yeah.
And you did that.
Well, it's weird because that idea of like oblivion, of having nothing, of losing it all was a huge like motivator for me on this album. I was actually fantasizing about losing everything at the very beginning because I just found like my situation to be so untenable. It wasn't just me either. It was like watching other public figures, you know, it was watching like Taylor Swift and like Maddie Healy and stuff and seeing the like parasocial rage that would be directed at those artists every 2 to 3 weeks. I was like, damn, is this really what I want out of life? Like, is this really like I'm married now? Like, maybe I want to do something that's a little bit more domestic from now on because like I feel like this is unsustainable for the average human mind. And fame is something that's been written about a lot, I guess, extensively since like the 90s. So I was feeling that. So I was like, let me make some music here that's like, what would I do if I was like planning to drop off the face of the earth tomorrow? Like, what music would I make if I was just trying to have as much fun as possible and was like ready for oblivion? Like if I wanted to get rid of all this, Knock Yourself Out was the first song that was made from that mindset. I was like, I kind of want to just like make some music and like peace out. Like I was imagining this being my last album for sure.
But it is by all means the most pop album you've ever put out, correct?
It's yeah, I think it's extremely pop. I mean, it's like, yeah, I mean, you mentioned this before about like struggling to find a lane. I don't see it that way. For me, I only get excited about making music if it's a reinvention. Like I only have the motivation to get out of bed to make new music if I'm imagining myself in a new place. Like it is absolute. There are people who I have like 7 areas that people are asking me to go back to in parallel. They're like, do Virtual Self again, do Worlds again, like do Language again, do Spitfire, do Say My Name. Like, and certainly people will be saying do Nurture again. But the special sauce on all of those eras was the fact that I was like pushing against something. I was escaping something. So
what are you escaping from here?
Yeah, I mean, I think all the stuff that I just mentioned, like, I don't know, I mean, the thing that I felt myself pushing off of was this notion that I needed to be responsible with what I was doing. That was the main thing. And it's like a scary thing to accept, right? Especially if you have like OCD and you want to be a good person. I just felt like trying to be at all times responsible was insanely constraining artistically. Like I was not having fun in the studio anymore because I was trying to do the right thing. Like,
but is the right thing fueled by like, I don't know, the fact that like you keep people employed and like people listening matters? Like, do you get what I'm saying? Like, what does it mean to be responsible in that context?
There's a song about this on the album. It's called Russian Roulette, and it's about like the reality of being like somebody who employs. Dude, I feel so conspicuous wearing a suit right now, talking about having employees. I should have worn something else. I should have worn the T-shirt.
The most futuristic suit I've ever seen, by the way.
Can you guys hit this? Y'all know the...
Yeah. That's a meme. That's like, we'll clip it. That's good.
Can you do it, though?
No.
Wait, just try. Hold on. You suck the cheeks in. Wait.
I don't know. I don't like this. I hate not being able to see myself.
That was hard. Is there a camera pointed at Zach?
Yeah, there's always a camera pointed at me.
Yeah, wait. Run that back one time. That's chatted. Okay, now smile with your lips, but keep your cheeks sucked in. And then eyebrows up like this, like smoldering. Okay, you lost it a little bit.
Yeah, fuck.
Yeah, the first frame one was awesome.
I have very little muscle control because I lack muscles in every part of my body.
Well, not in the Chad region. That looks really good. Dan, do you have it? Can you Chad face?
No. it's just gonna be as bad as Zach.
Watching Dan do anything besides sit there is kind of uncomfortable.
What about the like soy face? You guys we got that?
People.
Wait, what is the soy face?
I don't know. Good. It's just like a meme referring to like Nintendo Switch. I don't know, like Nintendo Switch playing beta males. I'm such a beta as well, by the way. Like I feel like I have no. Yeah, I don't know.
People refer to you as like an anime boy. Do you take that as a compliment or an insult?
Well, I'm still waiting on someone to tell me what anime is. This is so confusing to me.
Well, anime is a form of cartoon, right?
Oh.
Yeah, you really don't get that out of here.
Sorry, no, it's just like that's been my bit recently. It's like I don't know where the anime. Well, okay, that's disingenuous. I do know where the anime boy thing came from, but it's just like a meme that like spiraled out of control. Like just like it's catchy to say like drop the album Anime Boy. I will say that this record is like probably the least influenced by Japanese music of any of my albums. Like Nurture was extremely J-pop pilled, and this one I think is like a lot more kind of in the tradition of like Western like rock music and Western pop music. But the aesthetics are still present. Wait, we were talking about something
Russian
so interesting
roulette.
a second ago.
Yeah, we were.
Russian roulette.
About like being responsible for people, right?
Yeah, which is huge. And by the way, like that responsibility has the ability to kind of cloud the creative judgments you make, because the creative judgments you make have a ripple effect that results in whether like, you can pay these people or not.
Yeah, I think that's why I was fantasizing about like Oblivion, basically. I think that's why I was fantasizing about like quitting, because like you're so right that creatively it becomes so constraining to think about. Like I think the word should like it's better if it doesn't even appear in your mind when you're trying to do something creative. Like you just have to follow the curiosity and the excitement and like the taboo. And like thinking like, God, if this song sucks, like I might not be able to like pay my touring crew. Like that's so uncreative and so anti-creative. And it's something that I felt like deeply. I was like, damn, dude, like if I flop, like there are people who are actually genuinely relying on me. And like, I don't know, the place my mind's going right now is like, that's so fucking unrelatable. It's like, it's got to be like annoying for people to hear like somebody talking about like being a boss and like having to keep people employed and feeling responsible for that and then like complaining about it. But deep down, like I'm just an artist. Like I'm just a person who wants to make music. And like that's what I care about more than anything else. And so like with those things constraining it, I was definitely thinking to myself like, it was just so nice to imagine like going back to a time where I wasn't responsible for any of this stuff. Yeah, that's a constant tension. And it's something that I admire about like Omega pop stars that do things that are creative. Like Daft Punk have always been my idols because they reinvented themselves with every era. And I definitely wouldn't think of that as like them struggling to find something. I would see that as like them flourishing creatively and finding something new each time. I've always looked up to that as a model of how to do it. And it's harder to do that when you're sat there thinking like, okay, I have to make XYZ payments and I have to keep these people employed. Like, yeah.
And by the way, I think that like that mindset only comes from reaching a success level that is so high that like you require that sort of team and resource, etc. But also to sustain it is not to do what you've been doing, but it's to do what challenges you and what fulfills you, right?
I hope so. I mean, yeah, totally. I always hope so. Like when I see artists that are trying to recreate their past successes, that always breaks my heart, to be honest, because it's just like, what's the analogy here? It's like, you know, the first bite of like a perfect Five Guys burger or something like that, like, or just like, sorry, this is me being like, this is classist again for me to talk about Five Guys, because Five Guys is like $30 a burger now. But like, you know, that like perfect first bite of food, that first burger, and then you have the second one, and it's just
never the same.
It doesn't hit the same, right? That's kind of how I feel about artists like trying to recreate like a past era or pander nostalgically to their audience. It's just like, it's such a fleeting rush. The problem is that you're not the same person you were when you first did it. Totally. Your audience, they're not the same people they were when they first did it. It's like those new Star Wars movies where they like show Han Solo on the screen for 2 seconds and it's exciting, and then the movie is completely unmemorable, you know? It's like, yeah, so I don't remember what point I was making.
Yeah, but it must be a challenge, though, because you see a lot of artists and they're making new music and new albums and new style, and then you just see the comment section, we miss the old blank.
Yeah, yeah.
And you're like, okay, well, what do I do? Because I want to change, but the audience just wants that old me.
Yeah, it comes up for a lot of people. I think it's just like, okay, like, that's not possible. So, like, it ceases to be a concern when you realize that you just know better than them, honestly. Like, the guy in the comment section, I know better than him on this point. Like, I think about this stuff constantly, and I've been making art for like almost 2 decades now, and I just know that like if I went back, it would be satisfying for a really small amount of time. It would never be as good as the first thing, and both of us would want to move on from it really quickly. Maybe it's just me, but I just like really love being in new fertile ground. Like when you're doing something new, it has the fucking sauce, you know? Like, I was actually talking to my younger brother's girlfriend about this, because she was asking me, like, and this conversation was translated through my little brother. It was translated through Japanese, because Mark lives in Japan, his girlfriend's Japanese. But she was asking me, like, why is it that every new project you do kind of sounds so different from each other? And I gave the same explanation, right, which is that like I can only get out of bed to make art if I'm doing something that feels new and exciting. That's really basically it. And her mindset was really different. It was like she thinks more about mastering something, about like getting that little bit better each time. And that's probably why I'm a pretty half-baked piano player and sort of half-baked singer, very half-baked guitarist. But it's like, at least I'm making new songs that I love, because like, it motivates me just to do something I haven't done before.
But I can also make the case that with every project or era that you create and bring to life, you're investing thousands of hours into it. So you are mastering something that's carrying over to the next one.
I get 80% of the way there. And you're right that I see what you're saying. Like that there's some skills that just transfer from era to era, like just like songwriting and production.
You mastering the guitar, you're telling me moving forward you're not going to use a guitar to write a song again? That's bullshit.
Yeah, I know like 7 guitar chords, and I use them across every song with a capo. I gotta get better at that before the tour. Like I gotta sauce up my guitar playing a little bit. But you're right, I'll keep playing guitar, and the weird thing is that I'm so unable to visualize what the next thing's going to be. Like, it's so hard for me to know, like, what is it the violin? Oh, no, it's not the violin. Like, I don't know what the next thing that's going to get me out of bed will be. But
shouldn't that be attached to where you're at in life?
Yeah. I guess I don't have to forecast it, huh?
No, it's about where you're at when it's time to create, when whatever pulls you to do it.
Yeah, you're exactly right about that, honestly. Yeah.
Very interesting, because I also think that, like, there is something that you have mastered.
What is that? Is it...
Or have you just gone 80% on everything?
I kind of feel like that. Maybe that's the imposter syndrome speaking, but I feel like I've gotten like 80% towards every skill that I've tried. But like,
but I can also hear Porter Robinson in every different era. Do you get what I'm saying?
Oh, right.
There's very much you that connects every song you've ever made. That is undeniably you.
I really appreciate that. That's like because I'll sometimes see YouTube comments like that too. Like on Cheerleader, I saw people saying like, this is so different, but it's so undeniably Porter.
Totally. Man,
that makes my heart sing, because I'm always like, I feel like I'm running away from myself a lot. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of artists have this too, where they feel their own like, do you ever like, maybe this doesn't apply to what you do, but do you ever like watch somebody else's, someone you looked up to, like watch their interviews, and then you watch your own thing, and do you ever feel like, man, my thing's just too, like, do you ever feel like you don't match up, or do you feel like
Weirdly,
Or do you feel like you're the GOAT now?
no. Weirdly, no. I think when I listen to somebody that I really respect do an interview,
Yeah.
I listen to learn. Right? Like I look at it from a psychological standpoint and I want to understand like how they got there, where they're at.
Yeah.
And I used to do that a lot. Like I used to listen to Howard Stern a lot. Like a lot. Like I probably invested thousands of hours into listening to him.
Yeah.
But I didn't even realize he existed until years after I started making radio. So like I wasn't necessarily influenced at the very beginning.
Yeah.
I was influenced like 2.5 years in. And when I listen to that, I go, I don't think that I won't match up. I have this confidence and faith that we do everything in our own way.
Yeah.
And how we do it is worth it and different for what it is, right? Like, I don't think anybody can do what we do and we can't do what they do, because I also believe that so much of an interview, just like art, is comprised of who that person is, right? So like, nobody else is going to be me, as I'm never going to be Howard Stern.
Right.
The same way no other artist is ever going to be Porter Robinson.
Right.
Like, I bring a perspective and a point of view into this conversation that nobody else can. Like, dude, Dan is Dan. He's not Robin Quivers, Like, Robin is going to do what Robin does because that's who she is. Her life experiences and what makes her a person is very much carried into that interview,
Yeah.
And I think it's to look at art kind of the same way. You may find peace in that. Like,
I for what it's worth, I see it like the exact same now, 100%. Exact same. Exact same. Exact same. But when I was first starting, and I think a lot of artists or people that are just trying to do something, they feel this. Like, it's another word for imposter syndrome, where they just kind of look at their own art and they have, like, it has their own stank on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've used this expression before, but like, I would listen to my projects and be like, what is missing here? And like, what's so aversive about this to me? It's like, it smells like me. You know what I mean? And eventually you realize that's what people grow to love about the art. Yeah. I think Caroline Polachek said, like, it was written on like a blackboard or something in one of her music videos, but it said, the you-ness is the newness. And I was like, that is so based. Like, that, like, the only real new thing that you can bring to the art is like the things that are uniquely you. So I really, really fuck with that. I just think that's like, I think that's so real. So anyways.
It's deeply accurate.
Right? It's
but
so
there's
real.
also peace in that, like this release and like just living life and being you and collecting and living experiences and letting that mold who you are and making decisions that are moral and true to your character, but ultimately kind of giving into the universe.
Yeah. You're right that there's some peace that you can take from that. Like, you can just kind of resign to who you are in some ways. But man, I also like, I have these dreams. I've had this recurring dream since I was a little kid about this endless mall in the sky. Like, it's this weird thing for me where like, I would imagine this like futuristic city. It's kind of like Tokyo, honestly, where it feels like this like mall that goes on forever. And that's been like this North Star for me of dreaming, of imagining this, like escaping to this future, this like beautiful, pristine future. And I don't know why like a mall represents that to me. Like, I think for a lot of people, a mall would be like a sort of a taboo, weird thing. But like one of the things that makes me want to sit down in the studio is like, I'm imagining some future version of myself and getting to this like endless mall in the sky of this like this beautiful gleaming future. And like, as much as I accept who I am and I know that there will be parts of me in all the art that I make, I also am chasing this like imagination, I guess, like this fantasy, this other world.
Yeah, what is this mall in the sky?
It's this rich.
It's giving like heaven meets capitalism.
Yeah,
it's like what is?
I love malls. You know,
so do I.
Yeah, right. Malls are vibey.
I love to walk around the mall.
Yeah, it's like I don't go there and spend money. I remember this girl tried to shame me for hanging out at malls a while back, and it embarrassed me for a very long time.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, this was a while back, but I mean, I came to find out she liked me. And I should have sensed this.
She bullied you?
She was kind of being like, I was like, yeah, me and my little brothers were like hanging out at the mall. And she was like from LA. And she was like, you hang out at the mall? Ew. And I was like, I'm not supposed to hang out at the mall? Like, I was like devastated. I was like, wait, is that bad? Like, am I bad? You know? fuck that. I fuck with them all. I love them all. Yeah, I don't know what this like. It's not even like it's like this like. I constantly have these dreams about this like. It almost looks like is it Coruscant from Star Wars? Like there's like one planet in Star Wars that's like the entire planet is a city. Like the entire planet is a city, and so it's like no matter how far down you look, there's just more and more human design. But like I recurringly have these pleasant dreams too. I hate my dreams mostly, but I have these pleasant dreams about like being in this mall in like that's like up in the air. It's kind of like Singapore or like newly developed China vibes, like super pristine, and like for some reason in my mind it like represents this idea of like limitless potential and of like a pristine, beautiful, imaginative future. And I don't know why, it's like this aspirational thing for me. Like my favorite song off the previous record, Musician, was like, it's so weird. Like when I would be working on the song, I was like sitting in FL Studio, like clicking, like moving drum loops around, like chopping up samples. But I'm not seeing the screen, I'm not seeing my hands, I'm not seeing my room. In my mind, I was seeing this like mall. In like I was just like hallucinating this mall in the sky. And like it's actually distracting at times, because sometimes I'll be working on music, I'll realize I'm hallucinating about the mall, and I'll go, oh fuck, I'm in flow, and it snaps me out of it.
Wait, so hold on.
Yeah.
The mall is what is giving you the art.
That's right. It's all of my power is derived from this imaginary mall.
This is a common thread that we've been able to detect here.
Yeah.
After doing hundreds, if not thousands, of interviews with musicians.
Wait, what?
There is a common thread. I think some of the really great musicians talk about like these songs like kind of coming down and being beamed to them.
Yeah.
Right? Or they enter
It's
this
from
like
the mall in the
state.
sky.
No, like Chris Martin says it's from the fucking universe.
Yeah.
Ariana Grande said something similar.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, we should pull all the fucking clips of people talking about it.
Supercut of that?
Yeah.
Please include me.
Yeah. Well, because there's something there, right? This idea that like one kind of releases to like songs have to start from somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And if you get like, at what point do you start seeing the fucking mall? And do you see the mall with every song?
Hell no, absolutely not. And that's kind of how I know like which songs are a little bit sauceless. Like if I was like hallucinating while working on it or not.
That's a good thing, right?
It's a really good thing. It means I'm like completely absorbed.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's really interesting observation. Like it is bizarre. It's like I've never done like basically any drugs. I think we talked about this last time. But it is a really psychedelic experience, I think. Like, and it's so weird that it's like tinged with pleasantness too. Why is that? Like, why is it that like being in that flow state and like passively imagining this other world and having a song kind of just being transported through you, like why does it feel good? Like it's bizarre. It's like getting piped down by the aliens.
The universe is the fucking mall.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
But it's pushing you to kind of release shit that you've been going through. So does every song on this album start with a guitar?
Yeah, basically. The guitar thing was really fun for me because I'd never played the guitar before. I'd never even really listened to rock music like at all. I was like, I just listened to electronic music. That's what I like. But I wanted to learn a new instrument. I picked up the guitar and I realized it's this godsend of an instrument because all the music is here in your left hand and all the drums, all the rhythm is in your right hand. You can basically imagine an entire song with just your hands and your mouth. Sorry. Pause. Sorry, I was not going to be able to move on until I said that. Hands and mouth. The entire song exists inside the guitar in your hands and in your mouth. I'm sorry. The other thing is, you know why I'm distracted is because about like 2 minutes ago I said something about how like making music feels like getting piped down by the aliens, and nobody heard it. And I was just sitting there. I assumed you didn't hear it because I got no reaction. I thought it was funny. Yeah, my bad.
Was the guitar the reason that this album came in 3 years instead of 7 years, like between Worlds and Nurture?
Yes. I mean, honestly, yeah. It's like I realized that like I had this songwriting tool that was like so many of the great pop and rock songs of history came from this songwriting tool. Like the amazing thing about it is like if I was working in a sequence or working with a piano, like I'm kind of in my head, but when I'm like this, like I'm in my heart, you know, like I can just, my senses are sufficiently occupied that I can just say what's in my heart. And it's so easy to draft a song with guitars too. Like I said, because like you have it's a whole song in a single instrument. But the other thing that was great for me was that my love of the guitar made me go, okay, like I should probably start listening to rock music now because I love this instrument. I should see what music got made from it. So like I had never really listened to Coldplay. I'd never listened to the Killers before. Like I heard Mr. Brightside for the first time in the last like 4 years.
Wait, that's
what?
wild.
But here's what's great about that, in my opinion. I know it's crazy. I never listened to like Radiohead. I had like all these things where I got like the entire history of like 2000s, 2010s rock as a novel influence for me. Like it's not like a nostalgia thing. It's not like me going back and like trying to recreate something from my childhood because like I feel like there's problems with that. It was me like hearing Coldplay for the first time and being like, oh, this is great music. Having none of the taboo, having none of the like you know, the ups and downs that every band goes through of people being like, oh, it's soft rock or it's cliche or whatever. Like it was all new to me and it was all amazing.
Viva La Vida, one of the greatest songs of all time.
Yeah,
Yellow, one of the greatest songs of all time.
Passively heard Viva La Vida. I'd like passively heard The Scientist and stuff like that, like in malls and stuff like that.
Radio, mall, literally
but, like,
anywhere.
Really listening, like sitting down and listening to it, like hearing like When You Were Young by The Killers, like for the first time, and like, dude, it was just like opening the portal to God for me. It was like hearing rock music for the first time and having it feel novel and getting to channel that through the art. Like I think that like Cheerleader is like very much a Killers song. It's like I was going for, it's like a little bit Killers, a little bit MGMT, a little bit Hello Goodbye. I think that like Is There Really No Happiness sounds super Coldplay to me. But dude, because I always got this comment on Cheerleader, people saying like, oh, I love My Chemical Robinson. And so, dude, that's on I have not listened, I still to this day have not listened to My Chemical Romance.
What?
That's like next on my
to-do
list. Yeah.
Oh, no.
This was not an influence for me.
But like, how are you able to avoid this? These are like bands that even if you don't listen to them, you still know them.
Like I wouldn't say that like I've never heard of Coldplay. I wouldn't say I've never heard of Radiohead.
But there's a difference between knowing somebody passively and then giving attention and energy to them.
Like I haven't seen like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I haven't seen like The Godfather. Like I feel like I have this thing, and some people might relate, like when something is so great that people tell you, when they have that reaction, like, oh my God, you've never seen The Godfather, you start to avoid it. At least I do. There's so many great fundamental cultural things that I've just missed by just feeling like it was homework, I guess. And so, yeah.
I understand.
Do you feel that? Do you feel me on this?
I've never seen The Godfather.
Okay. Well, I feel seen.
Yeah, I don't have any like desire to see that. Scarface, never seen it.
Are they the same? The Godfather and Scarface are pretty different, right?
I know. Yeah, totally different.
Yeah.
I know that much.
I feel like I can't imagine the posters for The Godfather and Scarface as being different. Like they look the same in my mind. I don't. Which one am I imagining? I'm seeing like a matte, like a suit, and it's yellow and it's like posterized or whatever. It's like black and yellow. Which one is that? Is that The Godfather? Is that Scarface?
That's like giving Kill Bill.
Kill Bill. Yeah.
Like black and yellow.
Was I thinking of Kill Bill?
Maybe.
I've not seen Kill Bill.
I think Scarface is like red, white, and black.
Scarface is like a black and white silhouette, and then the text is red.
Yeah.
And then The Godfather
is black and red.
The Godfather is
or black and white.
That one, guys. Oh no, that one's like gold.
That's like that. Maybe that's what I was thinking of.
Okay.
Yeah.
People say The Godfather 2 is better than The Godfather 1, right?
I don't know, man.
We are the worst two people to have this.
Bad.
This is a bad prompt for you.
It's actually embarrassing. Yeah. This is like because people are going to judge me.
Should we go watch it after this?
Sure.
Should we? Yeah. Maybe we'll love it.
You ready? My friend had a house that she lived in for a while, and it was actually the house that Francis Ford Coppola owned, and it was where they originally, for the first time, screened The Godfather.
Screened.
I was in the room, had no desire after that. So I'll go watch. If you want to watch, I'm down to watch.
I feel like this could be really good for our relationship.
I'm down for this.
Yeah. But you were saying you really don't want to see it. Do you have an aversion?
No,
do you not like violence?
No, I'm down for violence. I get what you're saying in terms of like society's telling you to watch something.
Yeah.
So like why? And then if society tells me to watch something and then it falls short of my expectation, then no offense, now I think differently about you.
Yeah.
But also, like, I'm not in the right space. Like, you watch The Godfather, in order to really respect it, you have to put yourself back to when they made it, you know?
That's true.
Because like I'm watching it through a 2024 lens, dude.
Right, right. I mean, I feel like it is interesting going back and revisiting a classic. Like I saw It's a Wonderful Life for the first time last year.
That's good.
Yeah, and I was like, I came to understand, like, I feel like because I've never seen Titanic, this is another one that I imagine. Like, when I imagine seeing Titanic, for some reason, I feel like it's going to be 2.5 hours of just the scene where they're, like, on the iceberg at the end, and he's like, don't let go. Like, I feel like that's going to be the whole movie, because that's, like, I feel like all of Jaws, in my mind's eye, is just like the shark is about to attack.
I've never seen Jaws.
Yeah. Have you seen Titanic?
Yes, but I'm gonna reveal something very dark. I've seen Titanic a few times, but I only watch it from the point where they find out that the boat is sinking.
Oh, interesting.
And to the point where it's done.
That's fried. Can we be honest? That's fried. Is that an attention span thing?
It's
like,
weird, dude.
Yeah, yeah. Is it like you don't want to spend the time with like the?
Yeah, like I don't give a shit about the build-up. Like I don't care about the establishment
Get to the, like,
of their.
You're
like,
clicking on the point of the video where the thumbnail shows you what you want to see. Type shit.
I want the fucking meat.
Yeah.
I don't like. I get it. Like you love each other. You built this whole relationship.
Okay, that's another one that is there people shoveling coal? Does that happen? Michael Scott briefly references that in The Office.
Well, I think when they find out that shit's going down below. But then it's very funny. Like they there's like people in tuxedos and they're playing it's like a quartet and they play while the boat sings.
That would possibly be me, to be honest. That's
you'd be the one playing as the boat goes down.
Maybe, yeah. I feel like that would be an artistic. No, that's bullshit. Honestly, I feel like there's some people who like romanticize their own death and be like, I want to like go out in a ball of flames. But honestly, can I be real for a sec? I would be thinking about like getting back to my wife. I would like, I think about that all the time. Like every time I'm in an Uber and the dude is like texting and I'm so conflict averse. I hate conflicts, right? But I'm like, there's two voices in my head. One of them is just like, just be nice. Just like let him text. It's probably really important. And the other thing is like imagining dying in a horrible car wreck and thinking about Rika, my wife, and having not said something. Like, this is my only chance to be like, hey, bro, can you please not text? Because like half the time they freak out and get really defensive and angry.
Totally.
But like, dude, driving is the most dangerous thing that we all do every day. It's like 1,000,000x more dangerous. Isn't it like top 3 causes of death is car accidents?
100%.
Yeah.
And people don't realize that those things are weapons.
Yeah.
A car is a fucking weapon.
Yeah. There's no, like I was talking before about like not wanting to be Mr. Responsible Guy, but there's no defense for like texting and driving. I
do it though. I'm guilty of it. It's bad. Yeah, I know. It's fucked up, dude.
Don't do that.
Up. I'm going to stop.
Yeah.
I'm going to work on it. My boyfriend yells at me when I do it. But I do understand like there is something different when you have another person in your life to live for.
Yeah.
That's like, it's more than just like, obviously you live for your family that like raised you and was with you forever. But it's different when you're building an extension of that family, you know?
Yeah, it's man, it just kills me to think about like in some scenario where like I'm dead and I'm in some afterlife or something like that and I'm like looking down at my like devastated bawling wife because I didn't like have the ability to stand up for myself and say like, hey, you're responsible for my life right now. Can you please like put your fucking phone away?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
That gives me a lot of, that's another like responsibility thing. You and I were talking about this a minute ago, like about how like, you know, for me being an artist, I want to put the art before anything and I want to like have nothing get in the way of the creativity. I want it to be so uncompromising, right? But then there's times where I'm like, man, if I said this, like, would this be hurtful to someone that I love? Like, yeah, there was a couple lyrics that I like cut back on because I like played them for like people that I love and they were like, it's like that hurts to hear you say that. And I was like, there were a couple moments where I put like the people in my life first. And like I guess that's part of that toying with oblivion thing, right? Is like I do dream a little bit about disappearing and going and living peacefully with the people I love. And yeah.
That's, you decide to make the changes to lyrics even though they've already heard them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But do you think the pain is it living in public forever?
I think that's part of it. Yeah, I do.
But does it still serve its purpose as it allows you to spark that conversation with them and hopefully find some sort of balance and/or peace or whatever it is?
It depends on what the lyric is. And like, I feel like I want to explain it to you, but like, I don't want to explain it publicly because that's doing the same thing.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you don't need to.
Yeah. So it's.
But it serves some sort of purpose to kind of break the ice.
Yeah.
With that person, no?
Yeah, I think so. And also there's an aspect of it where it's like, I don't know, like finding who you are through like who you become when you're with the people that you love, you know? Like that's a very real part of me. And like I do like love my wife more than I love my career or love music. Like I would pick her over it every single time. And so that was like one area where I was like, I would pump the brakes on a lyric or two if she was like, say like this has a chance of hurting you. Like this has a chance of, and if there was ever something that she would kind of want me to pull back on, it would be a lyric where it would be like, this is like going to cause trouble for you or something like this.
Was any part of you shocked by you being able to put her first without even thinking about it?
I think once I found the right person, that became extremely easy. You know, like it's just how it felt. You know, it's like maybe it's part of just growing up, but I don't know. I'm so in love. It's and it's interesting because like there's no love songs on this album. This album is like all about me. It's all about my like career. It's all about like fame and stuff like that. And it's an interesting thing to like write right after getting married. But I think that came from like, I don't know, like sharing photos of my wedding and people being so happy for us and so invested. Like I somehow felt like, is this right? Like, is this how people are supposed to know me? Like, you don't know me, you don't know her. Like I kind of wanted to show less of myself and wanted to show less of the people I love. And yet on this album, I'm talking about like getting my teeth done and feeling weird about it. And like my mom and my dad and
hello, beautiful human. Every year, millions of gamers experience IGSS, inadequate gaming setup syndrome. Luckily, a cure has been found. You have to go beyond with the Vibrasonic mattress by Beyond Sleep. This thing has 6 built-in subwoofers, USB ports for charging, LED lights so you never stub your toe. It gives you an acoustic massage when you want it, plus adjustable degrees of comfort. This right here is the best way to game ever. Cure your IGSS today at BeyondSleepTech.com.
Where does Easier to Love You come from?
That was another one that is about like self-image for sure. Yeah, it's Easier to Love You is well, it's sort of an interesting story. That chorus melody, I wrote that and I kind of wanted it to be like this like Eurodance song, like the like Gigi D'Agostino, like I'll Fly Away With You song, the end credits of Uncut Gems, the I wanted it to be like something like that, and I played it for a friend, and he was like, dude, this is like a Porter ballad. Like this is like, this song, that melody is so you. I was like, oh, interesting. Kind of went back in the studio and, but I mean, so that song is about insecurity, right? That song, the lyrics are about it. Like, it would be so much easier to love you if you could only see yourself like me. And it might sound like I'm singing that about a partner, but honestly, like my partner, my wife, Rika, she's like, she does not struggle with image issues at all. She doesn't struggle with how she sees herself, but like I really do. And that's every time I come on here, I think that becomes more evident. Yeah, that song is like that song is basically about wishing I could see myself in the way that the people who love me see me.
That's kind of what it felt like.
Oh, okay,
written
good.
From like the perspective of maybe your wife or even your fans, the people who love you the most.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I love the idea of seeing it through the lens of the fans. I didn't think about it that way, but that plays into the themes of the album. Yeah, I also like boy band music played on my mind a lot with this album. I think Cheerleader and weirdly Easier to Love You is kind of like you think about that like One Direction song that opens with like, you know, you're insecure. And what's the chorus of that song? Like, oh yeah, you don't know you're beautiful. Like there's such a like adolescent charm, I guess, to that sort of idea that like only I can see that you're beautiful. And the person hearing that like, that feels amazing to hear, right? You know, it's like somebody sees my inner goodness and sees my inner light and like I'm worthy of love. I was definitely trying to channel a lot of those like adolescent feelings on this album, like just that desire to be seen for the first time, the desire to be loved. Yeah.
Do you have a desire, or did you really have a desire to kind of erase your back catalog, or is that just
the video
bullshit?
That was bullshit.
But do you do that in your mind mentally?
Well,
before you even embark on something new?
Yeah. So the thing that you're referring to, just for people who don't know, is I like released a YouTube video. The very first thing from this album was a YouTube video that was like supposed to look like it had been uploaded by somebody else from the year 2028, a video essayist. And it was like, hey guys, like happy 2028. Today I'm going to be describing the story of one of my personal favorite musicians who disappeared, Porter Robinson, the artist who one day, apropos of nothing, deleted his entire catalog and removed his own presence from the internet entirely. I thought like the idea of for me to publish a video essay about me from this hypothetical future where I disappeared felt provocative, and it mirrored the feeling I had right at the beginning of writing this album, which was like, what if I did disappear? Like, what if I did go away? Like, what if this wasn't really for me anymore? Like, could I even do that? Like, if I really wanted to disappear, like, could I even effectively disappear at this point? Because that would create intrigue, you know? And then people would try to find out what's going on. There's this, like, intractable part of putting yourself in public. Like, think about this. When you put something online, you're not just putting yourself into the culture that you know now. You're also putting yourself into the culture of the future. So, like, think about a woman who appeared on TV in, like, the 1960s or whatever. When she agreed to be on TV, she was agreeing to be on the television that she knew, right? Like, it would play on TV maybe 6 or 7 times. But now we can have that clip, and it can be on YouTube, and it can be microanalyzed, and what she says can be. And now you can take AI tools and extract her voice and isolate it. And like, think about this, like we're all putting this stuff online now. Imagine 7 or 8, 10 years in the future where imagine there's a perfect AI machine learning powered lie detector that is like 99.9% accurate. Like we were all putting our voices and likenesses onto the internet with no awareness of that in the future. Like it could be used completely differently, you know, like, and that, there's a real vertigo, I feel, a real fear around how intractable it is to like put yourself out there. And yet I want to be seen, and I feel like I have valuable stuff to say, and I love making art, and I love sharing it with people. That tension I felt a lot.
By the way, everything you just said was real in terms of like how one can be taken advantage of, extracted, utilized, and forever kind of exploited on the internet, right?
Yeah.
For decades, centuries to come. I do wonder, like, whose responsibility is to figure that one out.
Yeah. It seems like the course of human history has been that we just figure stuff out. We find the like bare minimum solution that is tenable. And I think we'll probably do that until the moment that we extinct ourselves, to be honest. And I would love, there's some ways in which I'm kind of optimistic about like AI stuff. Like, for example, AI is like insanely good at reading like MRIs and is better than doctors at detecting cancer and stuff like that. AI is also inventing all these kinds of like antibiotics that it will be like, there's a huge amount that we stand to gain, I think, from an increase in intelligence. There's also a whole lot that we like stand to lose. But I don't think it's something that we can take back at all. And I think it's too late to really do anything about it. And so we just are like thrust forward into the future and into a future that nobody really agrees to, but that we all collectively build together. It's scary. It's scary. Shit's changing really fast. Like an example of like the media landscape changing. That's not the way of putting it. Like putting something out on the internet and not knowing how it'll be used, that changing. So like when I was like 15 or 16 and making music, like producers were very protective of their drum sounds, especially electronic music producers. Like if you were a dubstep or drum and bass producer and you had that right, like that right snare sound, like it took a lot of time and effort to make that. And it was extremely, you would basically structure your songs so that there was always another sound playing on top of the snare. So you can't just rip it and take it, right? This was like massively important to people. And even for the club intros of the intros and outros for DJs where it would just be the drums, people were careful to put another sound so that the other producers couldn't just rip their drums they'd worked really hard on. And now every single one of those songs, you can use an AI splitting thing and just take all the drums out. And so it's just like, it's impossible. It is literally, like, I would have told you when I was 20 years old, like, the stuff that AI tools are able to do now with, like, extracting vocals.
Crazy.
It's literally, it's black magic to me still. Like, it's like, to me, it's the audio equivalent of going to the grocery store, buying a pre-made cake, and somehow getting the eggs out intact. I mean, it's already baked in. It should be completely inseparable. And so it's like, I can't emphasize enough that we cannot predict the future. And it's like, we have no idea how the stuff we're going to put out is going to be used. We have no clue. Like, when artists were putting out visual art or even putting music onto the internet, they didn't know that it was going to be used to train, like, Midjourney and train DALL-E. And now, like, I feel like my music has probably been used to train, like, Sonu AI or whatever that's, like, used for music making. It's like, I don't know, it's weird because I'm generally a pretty optimistic person, and I think that society has largely benefited from technology's improvements overall. I think it's, like, easy to get rose-colored glasses about times where we were all dying of, like, cholera and malaria and shit like that. But, like, I will say that the moment that the internet seemed to implode and be unusable was when every single social media switched to algorithmic feeds. Like, that was the moment where it ceased to be a community and kind of became people, like, yelling at each other and dragging each other. I mean, that's what it felt like to me. It was like, that was the moment when it became the stuff that you're shown online is optimized for maximum engagement. That's where we lost any semblance of, like, context.
Sure.
And there's upsides to that too. Like, it's really cool that somebody with no following can throw up their song on TikTok and have a massive hit. Like, that is insanely cool. And there's always going to be upsides and downsides to it. But it's like,
it's also an echo chamber. There's a lot of things that are wrong with it.
I know. Yeah. It's really unpredictable. Yeah, dude.
It's crazy to think about.
Yeah.
Because,
how is this going to be used, you know?
I mean, genuinely, if I wanted, this conversation that we're having right now could show up tomorrow in 8 different languages perfectly.
Yeah. Should we do it?
There could be a world in which we live in very, very soon at which that happens.
Yeah.
Of course. Like, fuck.
What happens if I start speaking Spanish and then we try to translate the entire interview into Spanish?
Well, I think it would be based on the quality of your Spanish and if it's correct or not, but yeah.
Sorry, there's a total tangent, but I do like the idea of, like, misusing the AI tools as well. Like, if they're trained to do one thing and you give them, like, the wrong input, seeing what it puts out. But, like, I feel like that could be cool too, you know? Like, I don't know. I was talking to Grimes about this, like, because she's really involved in, like, AI stuff and she's, like, pretty pro AI, but I think people also don't know that she's really, like, insanely thoughtful about this stuff, and she's, like, worried about a lot of it, and she's talking to a lot of people who are involved in the AI space and, like, trying to figure out how we can create like some form of self-regulation. She's, like, raising concerns to some of the most important people in AI about this stuff, and that wasn't my expectation. Like, the version of her that I had seen online was, like, severely taken out of context, and when I met her, she was incredibly thoughtful, like, really one of the most polite and conscientious people I've ever met, like, always thinking about everyone else, like, a great mom, like, is so like, frighteningly intelligent, unbelievably creative. And we talked about AI at length, and, you know, I think that she, like, people will think of her as this, like, techno utopian person, but, like, maybe it would be great if we could create a world where people were freed from, like, working constantly. Like, why does that have to define the human experience, you know? Like, if AI is able to liberate us from work, that could be really great. But then you see everything that is terrifying about AI in the same breath. And, yeah.
It's a combination, right? Like, people, yes. I think we should live in a world where people, at a minimum, don't need to live in poverty and have the basic necessities of life, and don't need to choose between, you know, ointment for their baby and the heat You know, like people shouldn't be making those decisions, yet tens and tens of millions of people are making that decision every day. The decision to heat and cool their home or feed their family.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. Universal basic income's required there.
Yeah, yeah. I'm definitely pro UBI.
UBI
my inner
all
tech
day.
bro is coming out. I like the
Sick.
yeah.
UBI is necessary. I think also the wiping of student debt is really required to allow people to be liberated. But then you realize, what is purpose, right? I think society has ingrained in all of us that our purpose is dictated based on our career,
Yeah.
right? So to take that away from someone, no matter how small that job may be,
Yeah.
to us it is small, but to that person it is everything.
It's interesting too because like when the idea of UBI first came out and the idea of like AI and advancements in technology like liberating people from work came about, like the idea was like, what are we going to do with our free time? Like people will be able to make art, they'll be able to make music, they'll be able to.
People don't want that, dude.
Well, yeah, not everyone wants to do that. I want to do that. It sounds awesome to me. That sounds fucking lit. But one of the first things that's happened with AI has been like AI art is insanely powerful and highly usable in AI music. And so it's like, what are we going to do? I mean, I still basically believe that yeah.
Because it can really do everything.
Yeah. And it's interesting. If you look at like what people like doing, like you look at video games. Video games are a really useful reference for like what video games give you tasks to do, and then they dose out like completing those tasks, and you feel like a reward. Like a lot of games, like they're like little jobs. Like World of Warcraft is like go kill 10 rats. Like that sounds like annoying labor, but then you do it, and then like you get some satisfaction out of it, right? So I'm also not really sure I'm completely convinced of the premise that like people would be better off without work. Like I wonder if we would languish. You know, I worry about human well-being.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Look at COVID.
Yeah.
People don't do well when they feel like their purpose is gone. You need to balance innovation with this idea that humans remain our greatest asset.
Yeah.
And AI would be nothing without people.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's exclusively trained on us, and yeah, it's
an interesting conversation that can go on for hours.
I want to, if it's okay, I want to talk about AI art just for another a second, because I've been thinking about it a lot. Like I used AI art in one of in my first music video for this. I mean, this is a video that had like 150 human beings in the credits, but one of the things that we did was like we made like fake Porter fan art to decorate the walls of this like girl's bedroom in the music video. So we made a bunch of like Tumblr-y looking Porters, some real, but mostly AI. And I thought a lot about that because I hate getting in trouble, and I kind of like imagined that the internet was going to be really mad at me for using AI art because a lot of people are really opposed to it. Weirdly, it was uncontroversial, so I'm mentioning it now so that people can maybe get a bit fired up and go watch the cheerleader video. No, but it's like I've thought about it a lot, and like I think about other advancements that made self-expression easier. This is going to be my brief devil's advocacy for AI art for a second. Like sampling is one example. Like I think when sampling first emerged, I think people absolutely thought of it as cheating. Like you're just literally lifting someone's entire section from their song and putting different drums behind it. Like you could describe Daft Punk's Discovery album, my favorite album of all time, as being plagiarized if you look at it through that lens. If you see sampling as cheating, or even like autotune. When autotune first came out, it was highly controversial. But I think that like autotune has enabled so many songs to be written that wouldn't have been able to be written without them. It kind of lowered the skill floor so that more people could try, right?
When Mariah Carey samples your song, does that does that mindset or ideal come full circle?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Mariah Carey sampling Goodbye to a World was crazy. Like we're like, can we hear the song? And like we'll play it through the phone for you. So I got to listen to it. Like
she was really like, go fuck yourself.
Yeah, basically.
I'm Mariah
I was like,
Carey.
like, can I be real for a sec? I'm saying yes regardless. Yeah. Like it's Mariah Carey, and like I'm gonna say yes, but I did want to hear the song. And interestingly, like that song "Goodbye to a World" was made using. I don't know if you've heard of Vocaloid, but it's the Hatsune Miku. It's basically like the Siri oh God, Vocaloid fans are going to be so pissed with that description. It's a text-to-speech engine, so you type in words. Yeah, you type in, like, I typed in, like, thank you, I'll say goodbye soon. And you put the word thank you on a certain note. I pick G, U, C. And you play it like a MIDI instrument. And so it was a robot voice that she sampled there. So it is interesting to think about, like, one of the greatest singers of all time sampling Vocaloid. Yeah. But, like, if I can just like on the subject of AI art, like, sorry, this is becoming like this is like Lex Fridman podcast material or something like that. But like, I've been thinking about it so much, and I've been wanting a way to talk about it where I'm not like, it's not like a tweet or something. I'm imagining, like, say somebody wants to make comic books, right? But they don't have the ability to illustrate, but they have a proficiency for writing stories, right? And they have these ideas for characters in mind. If they're able to use AI art to, like, get started in making, just to get their story heard, and I think eventually, any self-respecting artist would probably want to use real artists once they got past that point. I just think that sometimes it can be very good for the skill floor, for the barrier to entry to self-expression to be lowered. And right now, AI art is highly taboo for, I think, a lot of good reasons. And one of the main reasons being that, like, the data sets that have trained it are, like, it's basically like plagiarism. But maybe there's an extent to which that's, like, worth it. Like, I think about sampling, how much plagiarism happened with sampling, how many unproficient singers made great music using autotune, and, like, I don't know. God, I'm, like, seeing, like, the Twitter quote retweets in my mind right now. That's how, like, trained I am by the internet. But, like, I just think this is my devil's advocacy moment for AI art, that I think that, like, it's not about the creation of one picture, because that is utterly easy, and, like, typing in, like, cool anime girl on the beach or whatever like that. Like, that's, I see, if you had trained yourself as an illustrator and been making, like, that's got to be insanely annoying to see. But I think there will be unintended and unexpected ways in which it will open it up to other people to make different kinds of art that we can't conceive of right now. And I think that there's humanity in that. There's potential for humanity in that.
But at what point does the barrier for entry become just too low, right? Because I can make the case that for the last 10 years, 15 years, the barrier for entry as it relates to shaping culture through some sort of creation of something out of nothing has been incredibly easy.
Yeah.
And by easy, I mean, if you have the will and the means and the drive and the confidence, naivete, whatever, all collection of things, and the basic resource of a phone and or camera, you can do a lot with just that.
Yeah.
You could do a lot with a computer and an internet connection.
Yeah.
Like, the world has given people access to become a star and or to tell their story or tell other people's stories like we've never seen, and it'll never be the same again.
Yeah. Well, I would say that, like, AI has also been a part of that. Like, and in terms of how content gets seen now, like, the distribution model, basically, like, algorithms that find some like a really good post, and that from somebody who has 0 followers and that getting a bajillion views, like, part of the way that stuff the floor has become so low is through, like, AI algorithms that are just showing us content. But I also think that's, like, possibly responsible for the downfall of civilization too. So I'm not trying to be Mr. like AI apologist. It's just like, that's a perspective I haven't been seeing, and it's been on my mind so much. And, like, but yeah, it is possible for the floor to get too low. I think it is possible for, I don't know, man. Sometimes I feel like my soul is being sucked away by, like, TikTok. Like,
I get it.
Yeah.
And you got to remind yourself that those TikTok algorithms, when it was first popping off and becoming something 2019 into COVID, they were real people sitting in offices manually building the algorithm, right? Like, pushing people to the top of pages to build some sort of consistency and to build from localities and local communities out. Like, there was a whole strategic, like
I like this description of, like, organic artisanal algorithm. Like, we got to go back to the handcrafted algorithms.
But every algorithm starts from something, right?
It's all
and when
human-made.
you don't have people there to do it or enough people to build consensus.
Yeah.
It takes real people at TikTok. Like I know 4 of them who literally fucking did that.
Yeah.
Like I can name like 15 creators that popped up that some are still relevant today, some aren't, that were manually selected based on location and what they were offering that build out this larger thing. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I was like laughing at that notion, but I didn't realize that was actually real. Yeah. Wow. That's crazy. Yeah. I mean, I think that if the only thing that people prioritize is like engagement and retention time, then that's like, and that seems like it's kind of the paradigm we're entering into. That's insanely dangerous.
Yeah, but now we're there. I think before we weren't there when there wasn't enough data. Do you get what I'm saying? But now they have nothing but data.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, to think about all the information they sit on about each person.
Yeah, it's like I saw some ad that was like it's like a supercomputer is like pointed at your brain and is like trying to extract every second of your time. And that's like a really scary prospect. Maybe it's just my inner like nurture porter, the like eternally hopeful version of me that wants to see some kind of silver lining to this, that like wants to see like okay, so like with one of my friends actually was like describing it was Jacob Collier was talking about like prompting in AI, and if you like how if you were like prompting like Midjourney or DALL-E or whatever with like a beautiful Renaissance painting of a castle, like it can make a plausible result, but that's not very inspiring, right? But then like one idea for a prompt that he mentioned was like, you know, like children escaping the garden at night by firelight. Like that, you feel something like that. Like that puts a picture in your head, right? And it's because even without even seeing what the AI output, which is very possibly hideous, that puts a kind of beautiful image in your head, right? It like conjures imagination of like adventure and like, and I'm wondering if maybe the role of art in the future is just going to be like effectively the imagination aspect, the execution. When the execution becomes basically free, the craft part of it, if that becomes irrelevant, maybe it only becomes about the initial idea. I would say that's
so like a thought starter.
Yeah.
So,
fuck, it's kind of sad though because like
but you know who does that is Rivers Cuomo, but he built his own thing.
Oh, he did.
Yeah, I feel like not enough people talk about this shit.
No, tell me.
And he told us on our show. He like is maybe one of the first musicians to use homegrown, like, I don't know if it's AI, but it's definitely algorithmic based. So we could pull up the clip and or like throw to it just to get it exactly the way he does it. But what happens is like if he has like a song title, he puts it into the system. If he has a lyric idea, he puts it into the system. If he has like a riff idea or something instrumental, he puts it into the system. And he essentially logs his ideas in different categories, and then it essentially takes all the pieces and gives him a prompt. And from there, he creates. But it's derived off of his ideas. Do you get what I'm saying?
I do,
but you kind of did that with Musician then, because you sampled yourself from an unreleased song.
Yes, that's true. I sampled the song that I had started with Cara Cara Bonito, and yeah, that like auto sampling idea that's like pretty helpful. Also, a lot of like the early Skrillex music was himself just sampling like his like Sonny Moore demos, and yeah, man. It's like if it looks like if I look like mixed up right now, or if I look like I'm biting.
It is
tongue,
a mix. It's easily one of the most complicated topics in society today, and it's something so unique to where we're at this very moment. We will not be here again.
Yeah, right. I know it's such an important time for like defining what the rules of this stuff is going to be, and like what is okay and what's not. And that's why I think I'm like particularly sympathetic to the people that are like, we need to like stop all this stuff right now, and we need to like clamp down on it. But there's also like the curious part of me that's like, okay, but what is like if we embrace this full-heartedly, like what things are we failing to imagine that could be upsides to this?
Well, I think that's a big one. And I think if we do everything through the lens of people are assets, and like people's purpose should be kept intact and or should only be supported through this technology and not diminished, I think there's something there, right? The idea of saying a life can be saved by using AI, but we shouldn't use AI because we think that this doctor's responsibility and their job is more important than saving this human's life. That's bullshit. No, a human plus AI should be making those assessments and should be guiding a patient through this process and diagnosis.
If it's better.
Point blank, period.
Yeah.
right?
Like how many missed diagnoses of cancer do we want to have in order to
we should be living in a world where our goal is to eliminate cancer. And if science is going to aid in that process, we should be doing that. But what we shouldn't be doing is living in a world where science and technology have the ability to limit or diminish art or take away from the human experience that is, I don't know.
Yeah. I think
it's complicated.
I have equal parts of me. There's this kind of just this human truther where I just feel like whatever the tools are in front of people, we're going to find ways to make them interesting and make them creative. Like I just believe, when I first saw TikTok, I was so dismissive of it. And now I see this unbelievable art being made with it and like humor that's echelons beyond what I could have conceived of. And I was like, I totally wrote this off. And it turns out that this was there's great potential for brilliance here. And then there's the other part of me that kind of looks at ways in which I feel like our lives have been made worse by technology presently, like the constant addiction that I'm dealing with, and the total unraveling of communication and the total destroying of context. And it's hard to be hopeful. Yeah. Dude, the other thing, okay, I know we've been talking about AI for a long time, but I have this other thing where when I'm working with AI tools, when I use them at length, I feel borderline hungover after using them for an hour. Something about repeatedly hearing AI music or seeing AI visuals when I'm trying to make a collage out of them, or I'm trying to take AI music and sample it and just chop it up so it's not recognizably AI, but turn it into something else, use it as a basis for something. There's something that actually makes me feel physically nauseous after about an hour or so of receiving something that feels to my senses like plausible human art, but that has no point of view, has no,
interesting.
There's no heart. There's no desperation.
It's hollow.
It's hollow. It's like I feel like there's an episode of SpongeBob where the chum bucket, they try to make Krabby Patties, but they're made out of gray goo.
Yeah,
or something
that's
like
it.
that. Yeah, that's kind of how AI art feels to me. And I think the thing that's lacking there is a point of view
and a heart and a soul.
Yeah,
totally.
exactly.
Something that we'll never have.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's the whole thing.
And that's why you can never really duplicate or totally diminish or replace art.
Yeah, because isn't that what we're curious to see in other people's art? Is what they're feeling.
Yeah, totally.
We want to music hits almost more when you know the context behind it, and oh man, this person is going through XYZ thing, and this is their way of distilling that feeling, and just creating a plausible result, something that looks and sounds like a pop song or something that looks like a Renaissance painting, but that just has nothing. There's no need. A large language model has no desire. It has nothing that it wants to do. It's just trying to present a plausible result. And I think the interesting thing is that that's the whole fucking thing. And I think that's one great thing that AI art has helped me realize is that the point of view, the perspective, and that's the whole thing. Everything else is just dressing it up basically. And the craft is a way of getting you there. But yeah, I've been playing with it. I've been trying to see if I could make samples using AI music and cut them up. And so far, I'm not gonna lie, I've not had good results with it. And maybe it's because I'm dealing with chum bucket sludge at the end of the day. But
soulless shit.
Yeah. But I would be lying if I don't think that there's some iPad kid right now who's going to be Mozart of his generation who's making collages out of AI generated material. I think there's somebody is going to I'm going to look back on this and be you know what, my antenna wasn't long enough at that time. I wasn't seeing, I was too scared of what people were thinking about this art, this way of making art, and I didn't embrace it fully.
People should use it as a tool and a resource, not as a way to be to hide behind. I think there's two different things, and the advancement of the internet is the sole reason why I exist here today, and we exist.
That's the whole time you guys were talking. I was people were asking these same questions about the internet in general 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah,
and I think it's just the same thing repeating itself.
I just always.
The big difference I think is just that we've never had tools that are significantly smarter than us, and that's the scary thing. The thing that distinguishes humans from every other species on this planet is our intelligence. And the idea of crafting a technology that's significantly smarter than us in multiple ways. Some people argue that okay, well, we've had calculators for 60, 70 years now, and those are smarter than us in some sense. It's able to do calculation. I know it's different.
But I can find people that are smarter than calculators. I don't think I can find someone smarter than calculators.
But it's specific domains of ability or intelligence, right? The idea of making something that's it's almost hard to like look, like I feel you on that. Like you want to look back at previous examples the same way I did when I was saying like, well, we've had autotune, we've had sampling, we've had music sequencers, we've gone from 6 tracks to infinite tracks for recording. We've had like Photoshop, Illustrator, like 3D tools. And people might have looked at those at the time and thought they were cheating. But yeah, it does feel like it's a fundamental shift if something is like, can outthink us on multiple levels.
Yeah, all of those things needed us.
Yeah.
The only thing AI needs is a prompt.
Yeah.
True.
It's just
Wild.
scary.
By the way, you can listen to all of Porter's music. It's waiting for you on Amazon Music.
Yeah.
There's obviously a link below. What are you thinking?
Did Cheerleader actually leak?
Yeah, it did. It did.
I see a lot of people saying like, look at the theme of Cheerleader and then look at the rollout, and is it all part of the rollout plan?
And it worked. It did 1 million views in 24 hours and 1 million streams in 24 hours.
The song did really well. I was happy about that. I was kind of like, candidly, like because it was exploring these themes of like my relationship with my audience in like sort of through a lens that's kind of critical, but also is kind of like needy, where I'm like, I thought y'all needed me, but I need you. And like, you're too attached, but I'm too attached. I didn't know how people were going to take it, and people really, really loved the song. And I was like, I thought this was going to be, I was like disappointed it wasn't more controversial, you know? But in terms of it leaking, it actually did leak. It actually leaked a day early on like, I think Apple Music Japan or something like that. Excuse me. And yeah, I don't know. It's like, people are so like rabid for new content that I don't think I can control leaks anymore. The thing that I'd say though is like, Actually, Madion said this to me one time, and I thought it was really poignant. Like, if you were a fan of like a certain like chef or something like that, and you go into their kitchen when they're like a third of the way through preparing a dish, and you like bite into some like raw pork because you could not wait for your meal, you're fucking stupid. Like, it's like let us cook. Actually,
I never thought
I
about that.
hate leaking of unfinished ideas. I hate leaking of demos. It's not ready for consumption, and it's like completely disrespectful to the artist and to the process. It's like you think you're getting something that you want, but you're actually like destroying the process. And it like all the walls that artists have to put up to try to keep stuff secure, and to even think like while you're in the early demo phase, like, God, do I need to button this up more in case it leaks? Or like I just, all that stuff is so anti-art and so anti-artist. It's like I hate the leaks. I cannot lie to you. It's yeah, because like people don't make magic in the studio. They refine something. And like dude, yesterday I was on the plane. I was like cooking up demos, and it was all dog shit. It was so bad. I made like 4 horrible little like synth loops on my laptop, and it would be like, it would affect my process really in really negative ways if I had to think that all of that was going to get heard. You know,
Totally.
you have to be able to cook a little bit. But yeah, Cheerleader leaked. That was a finished song that leaked, so it's a little different. But honestly, I feel like I have to shout out the fans for this one, because they did. Like, I feel like people who listened to the leaks were like, yeah, but I'm going to stream it like 300 times on release day. So shout out to those fans who are like making amends for checking the leaks.
I feel like this lyric is born out of bravado, but is there a part of you that genuinely sees yourself as Taylor Swift?
Oh yeah, the like, bitch, I'm Taylor Swift thing. There was a few reasons that I said that. One of them was that like, there's the Taylor Swift discourse is like constant and unending. It's like always about like her and her planes and like her relationships and stuff like that. And like, she's like the ultimate example of being in a parasocial way put under a microscope. And I was like seeing myself through that lens on one hand, but the other lens that I was seeing it through is like, this album had a real embrace of like the fundamentals of songwriting, like some of the most tried and true like tropes, borderline cliches. Like a lot of Taylor Swift songs use this like 1-5-6-4 chord progression that's so universal. It's the like Let It Be chord progression. It's so universal that it's like people make fun of it. It's like something being a 4-chord song. Have you ever seen that like Axis of Awesome 4-chord song video where they show how many songs are fit into the same 4 chords? And on this album, I like really embraced every cliche that I could think of. Cliche chord progressions, cliche sounds. I wanted to like turn those up to the max, because cliches are a reflection of our humanity. Like if something takes hold in China and Brazil and in the US, And like, it's like something is that fundamental, it reflects something beautiful inside of us. Like, I think cliches are beautiful. And so I really wanted to take them and turn up the volume. But I was realizing that a lot of my like musical moves were evoking Taylor Swift in my mind, especially on that song. I was like, this song is like sounding a little like something off like, I don't know, like Red or like the Max Martin stuff, like 1989. And so it was another thing where I was like sitting there with the guitar and I said, bitch, I'm Taylor Swift. And I was like, that's stupid. That's a dumb lyric. It's like annoying. It's like borderline like The Lonely Island. like I'm on a boat. I was like, this is so dumb. And yet when I say it, I feel something, and I'm not getting rid of this. Like, this is something that I would have deleted from a previous song. But like, I have a strong inclination that when I play this at a show for the first time, that line will be screamed louder than anything else. So I was trying to really not self-censor, but it was both. It was like an embrace of like universality, which I think Taylor embodies.
Totally.
Universal music that speaks to like almost everyone. And like this idea of being put under a microscope and being pulled apart and having every aspect of your life for consumption. Yeah. Bitch, I'm Taylor Swift.
But is Knock Yourself Out about finding the humor in your like fame and popularity?
This was really important to me. Was like, yeah, that's so apt actually, Dan. Like, I want to say that like, I really never wanted this to be the like fame pity party, because I just didn't ring as true to me. I wanted it to be more about the bizarreness of that experience, like the absurdity of fame. And so a lot of the visual stuff you'll see is like me riding on top of mascots and like just like turning this, I want the concert to be like an insane practical effects party. And like I'm fully embracing absurdity. That's really what it's about. It's about like just the bizarreness of like, I can like going to the grocery store and like be thinking about like, God, I really want some like, I wish I could eat Trix these days. Like, I think I'm going to get Trix. And then somebody comes up and like, I was going to kill myself until I heard this song you wrote. And just that bizarreness of, it's so much. It's like, it's so meaningful and it's so hard to process. And it feels like so important. And yet like, there's times where like, I don't know if it's true. Like, it's almost like I can't let myself believe that I'm responsible for people's lives. Like, the thing that you say to people in that situation is like, oh, I didn't save your life. Like, you saved your life. Like, you're the one in the driver's seat ultimately. But yeah, I think Knock Yourself Out is about that like absurdity. It's about the bizarreness of the whole experience. And then also it was like bravado. It's like wanting to be like, there's certain public figures that are like unstoppable because of how immune to shame they are. I think like Trump is a wonderful example of this, of like somebody that I think is like a textbook narcissist, psychopath, like irredeemable. This doesn't come across as praise, but I think something that has made him insanely effective is the fact that like nothing sticks to him. He's so degenerate that it is like there's no mud that you can throw at him that he isn't already caked in. You know what I mean? And isn't proud of. And like, there's a certain part of me that like you see that and like, damn, like wouldn't it? I think the thing that some people like about Trump is the fact that he feels. I think people see someone who's unstoppable and shameless, and they think to themselves, God, I wish I had a part of that. God, I wish I didn't feel so ashamed and so scared and so, afraid of doing the wrong thing. And like there's like, and it's like I feel like. Or like even like I think Kanye is an example of this too, where like he would say that in older interviews he would talk about he portrays himself in such an egotistical way because he wants people to be able to take that on for themselves. And I would be lying if I didn't say that didn't resonate with me to a certain point. Like I would meet fans. I remember meeting fans in Chile, and I saw people, and the way that they would present themselves to me was so meek and so small and so humble and so polite and deferential. And maybe I was overestimating my own influence, but I was like, is this how people think you're supposed to show up because of me? Like, I think my presence in the past has been really shy and small. And I think my fans were mirroring that. And I was like, I don't want people to have to go through life feeling like they need to be small. Like I want people to be able to go through life feeling like they should take up as much space as they can and share it with other people. Like I think like when you are colorful and bold and embody, like when you show off the most bright, beautiful parts of yourself, it enables other people to do the same thing. I don't think it's a zero-sum game. I don't think it's a thing where like if you're Jacob Collier talks about this as well, and that really inspired me. Like Jacob, he spikes his hair up, he wears like all these rainbow colors and his Crocs and stuff like that, and like people are so like so love or hate Jacob Collier. I love him. And one of the things that I love most about him is he embraces his eccentricity. He embraces his bigness. He embraces his loudness. And I think that's beautiful. I'm like, dude, I'm going to like die in 40 years. Like, what am I being meek for? And I wanted to be able to show up for my fans in that same way. It was like, you don't have to be so like scared. You don't have to be so shy. Like, this is your chance. Like, this is your time. And I'm compensating for something, you know, I'm compensating for, I think, my nature to an extent where I'm, like I said, I'm like, I get in the Uber and I'm like, you know, I'm like, close the door quietly. And I'm like trying to be polite and not offend anybody. But I don't know, if I'm making art, I want to be like throwing the paint around. Mm-hmm. I want to be like hitting the keys as hard as possible. I want to be slamming the drums. I want to be screaming into the microphone. Like, if you want to be heard, like, you should be getting loud. So that's another thing I was trying to embody on Knock Yourself Out. I was like, I don't think my message should be that you should like like bend to everybody else's will. You should be yourself, like, loudly and beautifully. And as cliche as that sound, cliches are fucking beautiful because they reflect us.
Fuck yeah.
So, yeah.
How does that all connect to the title of the album?
Smile. I think Smile embodies like a few things for me. It's like something people tell you to do. So there's an aspect of the audience there. People say smile. Yeah. Like it's like a cat call. It's like a kind of like harassment. It's like something when people say when they're about to take your picture. So it's like being documented. But it's also like I wanted this album to be joyful and exuberant and big and loud and fun. Like I seriously felt like the fun had fallen out of my work. It was a big thing that got me back into this. I was like, I wanted it to bang again. I wanted it to like hit. I saw 100 gecs at a music festival, and like I'd been kind of like back and forth on their music, and then I watched them play at Firefly. I watched Side of Stage, and I just looked out into the crowd, and I sort of had this expectation that it was going to be like a really niche audience, like it was going to be like just for the like 100 gecs fans, and I realized I saw like backwards baseball cap, drunk frat bros with like beer in hand, like turning up to their set. And I was like, this is universal. This music is for everybody. Like I don't know why I didn't see it immediately. Like this is like unbelievably good. And yeah, I just like, that inspired me hugely. I was like, man, this like, I don't know. They were just like playing these like ultra compressed wall of sound guitars. It was stuff from their second album. These like super loud drums. I was like, this is so like, this is so bass. It's so good. Like, it's so loud. It's so them. Yeah.
Will you play guitar at your next shows?
Yeah, definitely.
Sick.
Yeah. Like it's a pop album. It's like pop indie rock electronic album. I'm an artist, but it's also like, dude, I feel like I'm always pushing against something, right? So I'm looking into the future. I'm like, maybe it's time to make some dance music again. I mean, I don't know. But yeah, this is a pop album.
But there's also EDM elements to this album.
Totally.
Though I mean, fuck, it's very dancey.
Yeah.
Sorry to burst your bubble.
Yeah, I'm gonna go kill myself now.
No, it's super dancey.
Damn.
But I do think that like the sign of a great song is the ability to play it on a guitar acoustically and have it still fucking hit.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think it was all built from the songs. But like, you know what? Like one of the things I was referencing a lot on this album was I went back and listened to like a lot of the music from the MySpace era, stuff that I had missed initially. But there were a lot of these like Warped Tour bands that were trying to use electronic elements in this like the Postal Service world. And there was something so charming to me about like they didn't really know how to produce electronic music that well. So it's a little amateurish, but the heart is there. And I wanted to do like almost the inverse of that. Like I don't really know how to make rock music. I don't know how to like layer guitars the right way or which settings to turn, like how to flip this thing for like lead versus rhythm. and I wanted my music to have that same thing of like a guy who has no idea how to make rock music tries to make rock music, and it's like fucked up in all these kinds of ways, but like hopefully that like the heart shines through. Yeah, I was like listening to a lot of like Lights and like Never Shout Never on this one. The Never Shout Never stuff resonated with me.
So
a ton.
great.
I know.
One of the most underrated people ever. Also, where's Never Shout Never? Where's the Ready Set? Where's Jordan at? But really, where's Never Shout Never?
Yeah,
I haven't. I feel like I saw him perform at Warped Tour when he like broke his leg one time, and that's the last I've ever seen of him.
Yeah, he's still around. I think he tweeted something last year like Never Shout Never is coming back in 2023.
I'm fucking waiting.
I feel like he's had his ups and downs for sure. I've looked at the subreddit and stuff like that, and I think there's been ups and downs. But like
dude, that's a hard era to have made music in.
Yeah.
Like I think about that all the time as somebody who started interviewing those bands and like going to Bamboozle and Warped Tour and
is that how you started?
I would show up at every Warped Tour and every Bamboozle for like years.
I hadn't even heard of Bamboozle. What is Bamboozle?
Bamboozle, I mean, I don't know if it was Warped Tour was first, and then Bamboozle exists in New Jersey, and it was at like MetLife and Giant Stadium. It was in the parking lot. It was I believe bigger than Warped Tour, but Warped Tour would travel. Right?
Oh, I see.
I'm going to Sam
so it's like
because
a single,
I go like
single place.
I'm going to Sam for like just historic reference.
Yeah.
But Bamboozle was only done at one location.
Oh, I see.
Every May.
I see.
And then Warped Tour would travel from spring to summer. And but like, dude, like people, I have so many people started in that fucking time, like Kesha and Mike Posner and fucking crazy people.
Katy Perry was like on Warped Tour. Like, I mean, I know she started with Christian music, but
BB Rexa too.
BB Rexa, I remember seeing her with Pete Wentz performing.
I love being a millennial. Can I say this? I'm sorry if this is taboo. I love like millennial music. Like even stuff that I'm not nostalgic for, stuff I didn't listen to back then. I think we made so much great art and continue to, and like being a generation that was like on and off the internet, like growing up in, dude, you know what's a goated era? Sorry, now I'm being nostalgic.
No, I like it.
Like an era where your internet time was divorced. It was like your computer time and your cell phone. Like you had like a practical level of communication with friends, but you weren't like constantly tapped in. That was, and everyone remembers their adolescence fondly, but I feel like that was a really great balance. Like it was so nice to be able to access the internet and experience all this connection, discover new things. And even like proto-social media, message boards and MySpace and stuff like that. It was like there's some real value in it. And then like you could also go to the grocery store with your friends and be offline. I don't know. Maybe I'm being a fucking boomer about this.
I miss that. Yeah. No, I do. I miss like being able to ride my bike and not be connected and then go home and sit on a computer and like have dedicated time attached to a screen. Yeah.
It was right. It meant a little more when it was separated. Yeah. I have a lyric about that. It says like, I remember the family PC. There was snow in the hallways. There was blood on my teeth. And that song, which is called "Is There Really No Happiness Without This Feeling," it's about nostalgia. It's about the dangers of nostalgia and the virtues of nostalgia. Like, I have such a complicated relationship with it. Like, nostalgia is oftentimes one of the things that gets me started on a project. It's like remembering that extra little bit of fondness, that disproportionate fondness that accompanies the memory of something, makes me feel like it was so great that I want to make a part of it for myself now. So sometimes nostalgia is like, because everything I make is a love letter, and that little bit of extra, that distorted love that comes from that exaggerated feeling of how great something was, like gets my ass in the chair in the studio and gets me writing. But it's like sometimes nostalgia scares me because I think it can be a vice. It can be like any other like drug. Like, I don't like seeing when a generation writes off everything that comes after them, being like, we were the only ones who had it right. Like music fell off after it's like such an insane coincidence that music was at its absolute best when you were 16 years old. Interesting. You must be the first person who ever felt that way. Like I think it's just so closed-minded. And so like, I feel like I try to microdose nostalgia. Like I end up macrodosing it, but I don't want to end up under its spell too much because there's so much that you can miss from the current world by overrating it.
That's interesting.
I love the vitality that comes with loving something new. I love And not everyone's, I guess, trying to be an artist and trying to make something new. So it's completely fine to go to something that's just a pure nostalgia event for you. But like,
my last question is, speaking of nostalgia, how do you feel when you hear like 10 years of Worlds?
yeah, I ride for that album. I like when I go back and listen to it, it's like, here's the thing is there are fans that want me to go back to like the Worlds sound. And it's now gotten to a point where I can listen to Worlds and I can feel that same like nostalgia myself. Like I can hear it and I can be like, wow, like this version of me, like I get why this means so much to people. I think the best thing I can do to respect those feelings for people is to not try and replicate it. Mm-hmm. I think letting it live in people's memory is the best way for me to respect that art, as annoying and frustrating as that might be for people. Like some of my favorite games of all time, there's a game called Star Wars Galaxies, a game called City of Heroes. These games like shut down when I was at my peak of loving them, and you couldn't play them because they were online services. And then people worked painstakingly for years to bring them back, and I'd missed them so bad. And I played them, and it was cool, but it wasn't the same. And it's like I almost wish I could just live with the memories I had of those games. But like I will say, like on the tour, I will definitely be playing like music from Worlds, my favorite songs from that album, because I love that music, and I like. It's so exciting for me to be at a point now where I have so many songs of mine that I love that I can like, I don't even know which songs to cut. Like that's a really cool feeling. So I'm not like over Worlds. And I'm happy to finally be able to feel some of the same nostalgia that people feel for that record. And like, yeah, shout out to my Worlds heads, my Globe heads, you know, like shout out to the people that were there for that time, because I miss it too.
Do you think about how they are going to react to Smile?
Yeah, I think that I just have to not care, you know? But I also think that there's elements of Smile that are Worlds adjacent.
Yeah.
I think some of the sounds, like even Cheerleader to a certain extent, I think like Russian Roulette, like some of the synth sounds and stuff. I think Knock Yourself Out also is like really good for like the OG Porter fans. It's like electronic, it's like hook driven, it's big, it's vast sounding, like, yeah, I don't know, man. I think about this all the time, actually. Sorry, I know we have to end, but like sometimes I will go back and I'll self-indulge in this like masturbatory way and like listen to my old music or watch old interviews or watch old show visuals. And I get filled with so much gratitude to the people who are there for it, and especially those people that are still following today. Like people who were listening to me 10 years ago, as I've gone through like basically 4 evolutions since then, who stayed on the boat and are still interested in what I have to say and what I have to do. Like in the most parasocial way, I love those people. And I feel a deep, deep, non-PR, like genuine, heartfelt, like it makes me want to cry when I think about it. Like the shit that me and my audience have been through together, and people who love my music, then like I feel them. Like I think we feel the same way about it, actually. Like I often wonder that, like my favorite artists, how do they feel? Can they listen, like can Justin Vernon listen to 22 A Million, Bon Iver, and listen and feel the same way that I feel? Or like can Thomas Bangalter and Guy-Man listen to Discovery, Daft Punk, like and feel how I feel about it? Maybe, I don't know, but I hope so. I wish they could, because it fills me with so much love and delight and like bliss. And I guess if any of my fans are wondering if I can feel that way about like Worlds or older things that they love, I think I do. Like I think I feel the same way that you feel about it. So
a lot of those songs probably mean something different to you today, though.
Yeah, and some of them like feel adolescent to me in bad ways. Like some of them
frozen
feel like,
in time.
Yeah, and some of them I'm like, holy fuck, I snapped. Like with like Sad Machine or like Divinity, Goodbye to a World, like Fresh Static Snow, Fellow Feeling, those songs to me, I listen back to those and I'm like, I was snapping. Like I remember the day that I made Fresh Static Snow, or maybe it was Goodbye to a World. Wow, maybe I'm losing it. There was like, it was one of the 2 Vocaloid songs. There was just like a crazy storm that day. And it was one of those days where like, I think this was Goodbye to a World. One of those days where there's a weird storm and the sky turns kind of green. You know what I mean? Like one of those like tornado weather looking days, and like sun shower, like it was a weird weather day. And like the atmospheric barometric pressure interacted with my brain in a weird way. And I just went in the studio and I was like, I hope this storm never stops, because like it's beaming something to me, and made one of the best songs I've ever made. And damn,
the universe, man. Telling you, the universe beams some shit to you.
Yeah, it does.
And it's here. It's on Smile. When it's ready for your ears, as it's ready, it'll be released. You can listen to it on Amazon Music. His entire discography's there too. There's a link below, okay? You good?
Oh, yeah. No, we could talk for 2 more hours.
Yeah.
But I
Y'all,
think
thank you
everyone here
so
would
much.
kill
You're
us.
my favorite person. I really enjoy you. You're up there, dude. Thank you.
Thank you, Zach.
Yeah.
This is like my favorite. This is my favorite place to come talk. I love talking with you guys. Like
It's mutual.
it always. I like really like. I feel like y'all make me feel pretty safe in here. To be honest, like I
thanks.
don't feel like I have my guard up.
You
Like
shouldn't.
yeah, even though I know like stuff can get clipped and put on TikTok and Twitter and like taken out of context. Like I just like I feel like I know if anyone watches the source material, if they watch the full Zach Sang show on Amazon Music, on YouTube, on
Wherever you get your podcast.
wherever you get your podcasts. Sorry, that was me trying to be helpful, but I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about.
It was great.
Wherever you enjoy your Zach Sang show, that it's going to be a really good experience to listen back to, because as a genuine conversation between good people. And yes.
Well, I love and
so much.
appreciate you.
Yeah, likewise. Love you too.
Thank you, Porter
you so much.
Robinson. Listen to Smile, but there's a smiley face at the end.
Listen to Smile, Smiley Face. There was a time where I was thinking about naming the album just the
Smiley
just
face.
the emoticon. Yeah,
But people can't search that really, right?
So listen to Smile on wherever you get your albums.
Yeah. Coldplay tried to make was it
With all
An
emojis.
emoji?
all emoji titles? Yeah.
It's kind of genius, honestly.
Yeah.
Just didn't work.
Yeah.
But it's fine.
Was that Music for the Spheres, or was that?
Yeah, Universe. What
Universe?
was the album that Universe was on? Something like that. I don't know. But we're talking about Smile. Go listen to it. There's a link below. Porter
Thank
Robinson,
you.
everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, y'all. Seriously, thank you so much.
Love you.